afternoon. I'd like to call to order the Public Works Finance and Safety Committee meeting of Monday, December 21st, 2020. Roll call, please, Kristen.
Okay, sorry, here we go. Albertson,
Here.
Bueller,
Here.
Hoyer. Hoyer is absent, okay. Pauline? Absent. Lallam,
Here.
Manti,
Here.
Rudemsky,
Here.
Roby,
Here.
Vilhauer,
Here.
Y.
Present.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. The first item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion? Motion by Rudemsky, second by Vilhauer. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote, please, Kristen.
Okay, Y.
Yes.
Vilhauer,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rudemsky,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lallam,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public input, and this is the time reserved for anyone who would like to make a public comment to step forward and do so. There's no one in the room, so if there's anyone online, please indicate that you would like to speak by saying your name and then request permission to speak. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Hearing no one, we'll move on to item 5, which is the approval of the agenda. And before we do that, I would like to move item H, which is a presentation on conflicts of interest and ex parte communication by our city attorney, to January. We'll try to do that the first meeting in January. So that's item H. That's the only change. Is there a motion? Motion by Vilhauer and a second by Y. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please, Kristen.
Y.
Aye.
Vilhauer,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rudemsky,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lallam,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 6 is the regular agenda, and we'll start with A, approval of construction change order number 1, final, with Dunnick, Inc. for the 2020 PMSC Neighborhood Street Reconstruction, project number 2004, for a decrease of $25,203.16, bringing the total contract cost to $367,641.09. And I will have Heath Von Eye, the Public Works Director, City Engineer, explain this after I get a motion. Motion?
Move.
I have a motion by Vilhauer
Second.
and a second by Y. And now, Heath, go ahead and tell us about this, please.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. This change order is in relation to one of our annual pavement management system projects. If the council recalls, we've split those up into 3 different projects, pavement management system A, B, and C. This is Schedule C from this current year, 2020, and it related to improvements on 14th Avenue Northeast and 5th Avenue Southwest. This particular schedule of a project evolved a little bit because of the necessity to do some what we would call some emergency repairs up there on 14th Avenue Northeast. That street kind of blew up on us in a real quick hurry this spring when the frost came out of the ground and needed some immediate attention. And so some efforts that were otherwise thought to be put elsewhere ended up being put on 14th Avenue through this particular schedule of the pavement management system projects that we administer. Long story short is we were able to get this one in under budget and under the bid amount. So the net effect here is for this change order is a decrease of $25,203.16. The final contract price due to this change order brings it to $367,641.09, where the original contract amount was a little under $393,000. I would say that in part, the quantities on this were held pretty tight. I want to use this project as an example of our presence in the field. Our engineering staff did a really good job of taking weight tickets on the asphalt trucks as they delivered material on this project. They were checking depths and thicknesses as the paving crew commenced with their work on this project. By having the staff in the field and that presence on this project, I think really paid off, and is why we're seeing a little bit of a cost savings on it. So I'd give that some of that credit to our staff and their work that they did on this. So with that, I'll stand by for any questions that the council might have.
All right, thank you. Councilman White?
Heath, just a quick question. Does utilities plan to do any work on this street that you're aware of while it's tore up?
Nope, this was all done and is complete, and so the no utility work was expected from our knowledge in relation to the commencement with our work on it.
Normally, we'll check that in the design stage before we go out to bid. Just coordinate our projects with them. Anyone else? Councilman Vilhar?
Now, Heath, there's a warranty period on that, that for the next year now, correct? In case what happened to bust up next spring?
Yes, the capital construction project contracts that we execute do have a year-long warranty statement in them. I'll double check here with Justin. I'm pretty sure that was inclusive in this contract as well. Justin, if you could chime in on that, if you know off the top of your head.
Yes, there is a 1-year warranty starting from the potential completion date.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right, anyone else? Okay, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please, Kristen.
White,
Aye.
Billhauer,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rademski,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lalum,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item B is approval of construction change order number 1 final with TNR Contracting, Inc. for the air carrier ramp reconstruction, project number 1927, for an increase of $138,973.06. The motion? Motion by Rademski, second by Roby, and I'll ask Keith to introduce this one for us, please.
Absolutely, Mayor. Thank you. This project stems back to our current airport terminal and the reconstruction of the air carrier ramp, otherwise known as, some people refer to as the tarmac, but it's the place where the planes pull up and park in front of the terminal. That pavement was in need for reconstruction and rebuilding, and was done so here over this last year. And this is the final change order for that project that would bring it out to close with the contractor. This was originally roughly just about a $2.4 million contract for this concrete work. And the final change order is an increase of a little under $140,000 for a net revised contract of a little over $2.5 million. Just to note on this as well, there is federal and state funding involved in this, as most of our airport projects are. The city match is 5% on this change order. So we essentially are liable for 5% of that amount of the $138,973 change order. Most of this work that this change order came from is related to the haul route that was initially used on the project and had to be reconstructed once it got done being pummeled as being a haul route. So it had a little bit extra expense in there to rebuild that section of pavement back to what it needed to be. And with that, we've got Todd Syrie, the airport manager, online with us, and here I can stand by for any questions.
All right, thank you. Questions, council? Not a single question. Maybe.
Did the airport board weigh in on this one? I didn't see any mention
I
about.
believe they did.
Okay,
Correct.
okay.
Yes. Thank you. Good question. Anyone else? All right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please, Kristen?
Y,
Aye.
Bellhauer,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rademski,
Aye.
Manti, Manti,
I forgot my microphone, sorry.
Lalum,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. Item C is approval of a purchase agreement with GNR Controls to replace DH1 dehumidification unit at Prairie Lakes Wellness Center in the amount of $58,491, and for the mayor to sign all applicable documents. I have a motion by Rademski.
Second.
And a second by Y. And I'll let the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry, Terry Kelly, introduce this.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Also with me, John Smalls in the line. I'm gonna turn it over to him shortly. We don't come to you with good news. This was a shock to John and myself, to how this was found through a recently entered into preventive maintenance contract. But John has done the legwork with the contractors, our consultants. So John, with that, I'll turn it over to you for explanation to the committee.
Okay. After we signed on the agreement with GNR Incorporated out of Sioux Falls, who installed the system, and what the system is one of two huge rooftop units that above the pool, and it affects the airflow and the air quality of the pool. And when they went through the whole system this fall, they found a leak. And we were having situations with the air quality in the pool, and they found a leak in the refrigerant circuit, which caused water to leak into the whole system, and it just domino effect where it ruined the heat exchanger, the compressor, the coil, filter dryer, contactor, and receiver, which is just huge pieces of the unit. And it's about the worst scenario that we could fathom to have. And besides replacing these issues, these pieces, also there's 100 gallons of glycol, and then also we will need to rent a crane to lift the whole unit up. And I asked him, I said, is this something that was just abused by us, by whoever came up and worked on them in the past, or an act of God? And he said it's just no idea. There was a hole that somehow was created. If it was punctured, whatever, maybe when it was installed, but nobody's gonna step up and say, yeah, we did it, and maybe it was an accident. I don't know, but we had to. It's something that we have to replace. The total cost was $67,284, but with the service agreement that we have with GNR, we automatically get a 20% discount on labor and labor and equipment. And so it came to the $58,491. Now, if you guys approve it, then Terry will sign off on it and they will order the equipment. And it'll take about 4 to 5 weeks. They have it up and running the best they can until they get it repaired, but they will not do it during cold weather because there's welding and soldering going on, and they want to have it so they'd be able to provide a proper warranty with it. So we're probably looking at, late March, early April. It'll be about a week-long project, and that's so. And we really don't have an option because we do have issues with the airflow and the quality of the air. We past couple of years now, we had issues with the swim team. A lot of the kids were getting sick and to a point where they quit swimming, and that's so it's something that we need to do. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer the best
All
I
right.
can.
Thank you, John. For the record, Kristen, Councilman Holeen has arrived. Go ahead, Councilman Y.
Thank you.
Yep.
John, if I understood you correctly, there's more than one of these units. The new unit that'll be installed, will it work in conjunction with the other units? Is it the same brand, or will we have?
You know, it's Josh. It's there's two units, and they work. You know, one they basically supply for the whole pool set. It's just the pool, and that they need two units to properly provide the airflow, and then it goes to the quality of the air. And they're both the same size, and there's one on the south end close to the glass wall, right above the glass wall where you can look into the pool as you're walking into the facility, and then the other one's farther north. And it's the south one close to the glass wall that they repair. And they're not replacing the whole unit, they're just gonna lift it up, take out the parts that need to be replaced, put them in, and then set it back down. And that, so.
Okay, thank
So
you.
yes, they both, they work in conjunction, but they both are needed.
Thank you. Councilman Bueller?
Hey, John, Bruce here. I just got a question. Have you seen the leak yourself? Have any of us actually seen the leak or know the whereabouts of this leak?
No. Jim our maintenance director was up there, and I think he's seen it. I have not, and that, but
Well, I guess I'd kind of be interested to know where that's at, because it's, you know, somehow or another that happened for a reason. And if it's something to do with the system, man, that's a tough thing to swallow. If it's something to do with the manufacturer of that equipment.
well,
I just,
yeah.
you know, I don't know. I think it would be important to determine how that leak got there and where it's at, if that's possible.
I can go up there and easily locate, you know, find the location of it, but, you know, I don't, you know, we can go after whoever you want, and, you know, GNR, and the company that designed and makes these units are O'Connor, and they're out of Canada, and that, but, you know, who's going to step up and say, yeah, I think we might have poked a hole in it? You know, I mean, at this cost of money, and that's something that we have dealt with ever since we opened the doors of that facility, where people are pointing fingers, you know, at each other, but nobody will ever take up any ownership on. Once the warranty's off, then it's just, there's no ownership after that.
Well,
we found that out in small items as well as large ones.
I guess I'd respond to that this way, John. I think it would be nice to know how it happened, so perhaps it doesn't happen again.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part, I think, is if it's something to do with the manufacturer, if it's something to do with the system, I think that's important to know. I mean, it isn't that old. It isn't that old. And John, I'm not bringing this up to point fingers. I'm just bringing it up because I think we need to safeguard against this kind of thing happening in the future. You know, and if it is something that has to do with them, I think there should be some discussions with the manufacturer of that equipment.
I will. That's fine. I can call tomorrow and visit them. And I did, you know, like I said, I mentioned it. You know, was it anything that, you know, was on our part, or because basically all we do up there is change filters, you know, as far as the units, you know, we don't touch anything else than that. But was there something, you know, looked like it was, you know, damaged, or was it like that, or what? But I will, I can easily call tomorrow and contact GNR and see what they have to say.
Yeah, I'd like to know that, you know, and that's not a good thing to have happen every 4 or 5 years, you know, that if it's going to happen again.
Well, and I did ask that question. I said, so is this something that we're going to be looking at every 3 years? And they said no. It was somehow there was a hole poked in, you know. I mean, but you
Well,
know,
I would
you're
like-
kind
I
of
would
at their, you're kind of at their mercy because we are not engineers, you know, and we, you know, we weren't right there when they installed it. And then actually it was fine, you know, well, the only time we knew that there might be issues was when the swim team was having uh, um, air quality problems, breathing and that, and sore throats and that. So, but that was well into our first year, or maybe even beginning of our second year after the warranty was out. See, we opened up the 17th of March of 17, but it was up and running probably December prior to that because, you know, we were still doing a lot of finishing touches on the building, but you know, the units were up and providing heat and air and that. So, so it is, you know, it's longer than 2017, but you know, but I think the warranty started in February when they turned it over to us. But I can make a call tomorrow.
Councilman
Okay, I'd
Roby?
appreciate. I'd like to know what the answer to that is, John. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay.
Councilman Roby?
Thank you. My question is, I picked up a little bit of this issue when it started happening a while ago. So the question is this: if we fix this, will it fix the problem? Is it a performance problem? My concern is it a design problem? Or we think the design's okay. If it's not designed properly, we're probably going to always have the issue.
You know, that's a good question, Don. There for a while, we thought it was a design issue, and I was in contact with Western engineers out of Sioux Falls who designed the air system, the gentleman that did it. And well, it took forever for him to return a call, and that finally, well, I had to include Matt Roby in the emails. So he finally did, and he was going to look into it. But at the time then they found out the issues with the leakage. So I said, well, let's just wait till we get, you know, this fixed, the leak and that, and see. And they, as I mentioned earlier, they got it going. You know, it's not 100%, but they do have it operating, and I know it has improved. And I've been talking to the swim coach and the swim team manager on a regular basis, making, you know, asking, and recently, like during their last swim meet, the staff, the coaches or the people that worked the meet that was there all day, they said they had sore throats at the end of the day, you know, and that, but far as the kids on it, they felt improved in that. But as I mentioned, they have it up and going, but you know, it's not at 100%, and it's something that they just can't continue to do. So I think, I personally think if we got the system back to normal, there will not be issues with the air quality. That's my opinion.
So you're thinking that the problems that we've been having from day one with the HVAC system not being able to provide adequate water or air quality could have been related to this?
And what that is it's inadequate pressure of the air coming in and forcing the air that's there out, because we had the air tested last, I want to say early February, late January, early February, and they said, and what they found out that the air, you know, above the water, above the deck, maybe up to 6 feet high, was just not, you know, was not good quality air. And what was happening was it wasn't, you know, wasn't properly coming in to be forced at the bottom air out, and that's what we're having now.
Right, and these problems were noted well before the end of the first year, well within the warranty period. We didn't know what was doing it. If this is something that they poked a hole during the installation and we just now figured that out, I think that's something to keep in mind. Anyone else? Councilman Rademski?
This 58,000, that's the repair cost of this. What is the cost for a new system? When this was installed, what did the total system cost?
Jason, I could not, I don't have that in front of me now.
To me, it doesn't seem like we're getting much of a warranty for the cost of this item.
well, everything is a year's warranty, the whole building, doorknobs clear up to units like that. It's just one year warranty.
Yeah,
And
and
that's,
we
to
had,
me, that's, from my understanding, that's standard.
we had issues before the year was up. We just had no idea what was wrong, and everybody was pointing fingers, like John said. Nobody taking any responsibility. Nobody knew at that time there was a hole in any line. But if this is what caused that, I think we got to keep that in mind. Any other questions or comments?
Just, Mayor, depending on what the committee does or the council, the financing aspect will be brought back forth. Right now, just with production time, we wanted to just get the authorization to move forward. I have been working with Kristen on means of financing, and we do have dollars available that are sitting in contingencies or cash balances to be able to fund it, depending on what direction the council wants to go.
Yeah, we're already spending our 2021 contingency funds.
Correct.
Yes, Councilman Vilhauer?
I'm going to direct this to our city attorney. Matt, I don't know, have you been in the loop on this? I guess, this really rubs me the wrong way. I mean, like Sarah said, we've had troubles with this when we open the door, And do we have any recourse in your opinion on this, Matt? Or maybe you're not that up to speed on the whole situation, but I don't like this.
Thanks, Glenn. John did get me involved, as he mentioned earlier in this process. I have not been involved with it recently, so I would need some time to formulate an adequate response to your question. I think that it sounds to me like the first course of action would be to figure out who might have been at fault here. But again, I can't speak definitively at this time on this.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Councilman Rademski?
When this is going to be fixed and repaired, can we have the maintenance man up there doing due diligence to make sure nothing is damaged in the replacement and repair of this unit?
Yes, we'll be up there during that week and when everything's completed, and then they will have a warranty on it. Now, I can't remember what length of time, minimum a year, but I'm hoping that'll be longer than that. We'll ask for, and then we will, thing is, right after, time they complete it, it's going to be heading into the summer. We still will have a swim team, but there'll be no swim meets and that, but the kids will still be there. So, that's what affected, the day-to-day people that go into the swim laps. They're not in there that long. Aqua size classes, they're not there that long also. So we've never had issues with our members that I know of. It's just the kids that do spend a lot of time swimming for the swim team. But yes, we'll make sure that they're up there watching and then asking questions about it too.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Bueller?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just, I got to say, John, I know enough about HVAC equipment and refrigeration to be dangerous, but I do know that installation of some of these systems is critical, and how these tubes and how the components are soldered together and with what. And I mean, I know there's a lot of things that come into play on those systems, and typically they will pressurize those systems at a high pressure and hold it. They can test the pressure in those for a long period of time. So if there's leaks, they normally will show up, but sometimes those things happen if the building shifts or there's excessive vibration in some of the equipment, those kind of things too. But I will follow up, John, with this, because I would really like to know kind of where that's at, so we get a better idea of how it happened.
Mm-hmm. What I'll do is I'll call and talk to them, and then I'll ask to correspond back and forth through email, and I'll include you on that one, Bruce.
Okay, and I'll just say to Councilman Rademski, his question, you know, the maintenance guy probably is not going to have the sophistication. I'm not saying he doesn't, but typically would not for that type of equipment. When you start getting into the compressors and all the other stuff that's hooked into that system, I no knock to the person doing that, but that's that can get, I think, fairly sophisticated.
What I could, let me interrupt here. What I can do also is we have a good working relationship with Active Heating, and I can, and they work closely with GNR also, and that, so I could talk to Jason Rorix and see if maybe somebody up there just can kind of be around too, and that. So
thank you, John.
Heath, Public Works Director, you want to add into this?
Just briefly, Mayor, just for whatever it's worth, having administered a good number of facility contracts like this, John's spot on that a bumper to bumper warranty is typically 12 months. It's kind of like buying a new car. I use that analogy anyway. Now, there may be other warranties within that new car, like your engine or your transmission, that have a longer extended warranty. And oftentimes the manufacturers will warranty these types of units. But I think the difficulty comes into play from what John's described is you've got a puncture or something wrong with something that's supplying or feeding the unit itself. So the manufacturer's likely going to respond by saying, hey, that's not our unit that's at fault. It's this line that supplied it. And there may be issue with them wanting to warranty it that way. I was just sharing that information, but that might be one path to go down as far as Matt's and John's research there in the contract language and what kind of an extended warranty might be on these units themselves.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please.
Why?
Aye.
Billhauer,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Radowski,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lalum,
Aye.
Pauline,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Item D is authorization for the airport to purchase one new 2021 Bobcat Toolcat with attachments from Bobcat of Watertown through a National Association of State Procurement Officials bid in the amount of $64,920.56.
Second.
Motion by Y and a second by Vilhauer. And Heath, go ahead and tell us about this, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is simply a purchase that the airport's gearing up and wanting to get approval on to try to make use of this piece of equipment here yet through this winter season. Fortunately, they haven't had a use for it yet at this point, but this money is budgeted in 2021 for the purchase of a Bobcat, what's called a Toolcat piece of equipment, along with several components of attachments that would go with this. NASPO is similar to something like Sourcewell. It's an umbrella of government bid type of types of equipment and things like that we, of course, as a government agency, are then able to purchase directly from. Bobcat of Watertown happens to have an approved NASPO bid for this particular piece of equipment. This is something Todd Syries worked out, done the research on, and presented it also to the airport board for their approval and recommendation as well. I'd stand by for any questions that the council might have.
All right, thank you. Councilman Y?
Heath, is this replacing or is this a brand new purchase?
This is a new purchase. For the most part, it's a new purchase. Todd has borrowed a skid steer off and on, I believe, from other departments or other public works divisions. He's had a need for a skid steer type of piece of machinery for quite some time out there at the airport, mainly for cleanup around the terminal and the parking lot areas where it's a little tighter to get into areas for snow removal than what the larger airport runway equipment helps accommodate. So it'd be more or less a new purchase for the airport.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'll look, Councilman Lallam?
Thanks, Mayor. Heath, on that, didn't they utilize the street departments a few times?
Yeah, they have. They've had, I think Todd would refer to it as a hand-me-down type of piece of equipment. And they've had some good luck with that when they've had availability to use it. But it's kind of one of those things where it's needed in multiple areas and multiple divisions. And so this will help provide the adequate amount of equipment where it's needed. And Todd, I let you chime in on that too, if you got anything to expand on there.
Thanks, Heath. The golf course is actually using the skid steer and blower, I believe. Terry, if you're still online here, maybe you can explain, but we have shared it between departments, and unfortunately it just gets used at multiple departments at the same time. And this would free up the golf course to use the skid steer and blower they have available over there.
Yeah, I mean, and we're actually across our department on top of sharing with you. So definitely support another one in the fleet. So.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please.
Why?
Aye.
Billhauer,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Dempsey,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lallam,
Aye.
Pauline,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson.
All right.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Item E is authorization for the mayor to sign the Stormwater Best Management Practice Maintenance Agreement for Lot 1 of Calvin Industrial Park, First Edition. Motion by Vilhauer. Second by Holeen. And I'll ask Heath Von Eye to explain this to us.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. There's actually 3 of these similar items coming up here. There's 2 more additional to this one. BMP maintenance agreements, they're best management practice maintenance agreements. These are essentially the agreements that the landowners are entering into with the city that stipulate the requirements to maintain their detention ponds. A detention pond is one form of a BMP, a stormwater best management practice. And commonly those BMPs, as far as permanent ones are concerned, they're commonly installed in the form of a detention pond. So that's essentially what these are doing. They're stipulating the requirements for the landowner on commercial and industrial property that says what their responsibilities are in order to keep their detention ponds maintained. The reason for that and why the city wants to enter into an agreement with them is so that we try to prevent any future issues from happening with these detention ponds. We wouldn't want to see them become overgrown or their outlets become obstructed and with sediment and they're not maintained and then they don't function correctly, which could lead to flooding impacts on either the property that the detention pond's on or neighboring property flooding issues and things like that the city as a whole would want to avoid and prevent from happening. So long story short, we've got these 3 on the agenda tonight, but with this first one, I would also pose the idea that and bounce this off the Public Works Committee to get a nod of agreement if I could. We'd like to move forward with these and execute them administratively and just to have the city engineer sign off on these maintenance agreements. I've bounced that idea off the mayor and the city attorney, and we believe that chapter 23 of our city ordinances would allow us that latitude, but I know we've always brought them to council in the past, and so before making that change, I just wanted to make sure that the Public Works Committee was okay with that. Why the city attorney thought that would be amicable as far as the ordinance is concerned, I don't want to speak for Matt, but I will say that this agreement doesn't obligate the city to anything, any financial commitments. It's solely laying out the responsibilities of the landowner and that landowner granting us access to their land for the city to do maintenance on their detention pond if they are negligent in their responsibilities. So with that being said, the action on this first one is for the Calvin Industrial Park. It's for the Lot 1 of the Calvin Industrial Park, which is currently and still owned by the Watertown Development Company. So they're the proprietors or the signatory on this particular example. And I look for a motion to approve this one or acceptance of this one, but then also get input from you on whether you feel it's appropriate for the city engineer to execute these moving forward. With that, I'd stand by for questions.
All right, thank you. Questions? Councilman Roby?
Heath, part two of what you just said, in terms of executing these going forward, are they consistent and the same every time? And aren't these now required with every development agreement?
That's a great question, Councilman Roby. The language in them are very similar each time. Of course, the land description changes and maybe some of the descriptive language on what the best management practice is. You know, sometimes it might not be a full-blown detention pond. So there might be some logistics that way that change from one agreement to the next. But overarching, the language remains the same. It gives the owner their responsibilities to keep it maintained and allows the city access in the future if we need to step in and do that work and charge that cost back to them. As far as it being part of the development agreement, we've also talked about that internally with staff, just as recent as this morning, actually. And previous legal interpretation, I believe Matt agreed with, because the development agreements are intended to expire after 2 years, and they're intended to be specific to the public improvements being constructed within 2 years to support a development. We felt that it's appropriate that this agreement be executed separately because this one remains in perpetuity and is forever a requirement with this property.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll take a vote on approval of this item and then maybe talk a little bit about that being an administrative item. So all those in favor of approving this, please signify by saying aye. And those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please.
Why?
Aye.
Vilhauer,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rademski,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lalum,
Aye.
Pauline,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. So we have two more of these that are similar, but does anybody have any qualms about staff administratively approving these to have the city engineer? So they are pretty much the same. In fact, I did a lot of these, and there's the only things that you really change are the owner's name and of course the specific legal description and what the ponds are, but they're all pretty much the same. I wrote that table in 2007 or 8, and we're still using it. It's the exact same table that's in every one of these for maintenance, and they are really routine. And I suppose you could direct the administrative official or the city engineer to bring back any of these to the council that are unique or different from the norm. Councilman Holleen?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a problem with that administrative rule or allowing it. I guess I just want to know, I can't envision a scenario where a property owner would have a problem with this, but if a property owner did have a problem, what would be their recourse? Would they still have a policy or procedure to go forward to
Yes,
bring it to attention?
to come to the council if they didn't want to have to sign a development agreement? Is that that's your question? And I have never seen that happen. And this is a federal law. These water quality facilities are required all over the country, and so most developers are aware that they have to do this kind of thing. Heath, have you ever had anybody push back on having to sign one?
No, I have not personally. And I think too, Mayor, to your point, I think it lends to the fact that it's in the stormwater ordinance, chapter 23, mandate by the EPA down through the South Dakota DENR. And I think it's just a well-known common fact that most of these businesses and commercial and industrial property just know that that's a level of responsibility that they hold. But to Councilman's point, I guess I defer to Matt on what the proper recourse would be for an individual that didn't want to sign one. I'd imagine some form of council action or approval would be necessary.
Well, the actions are being required in the agreement are required by ordinance. So if they didn't want to take the actions that were required by the agreement, we'd have to change the ordinance. In theory, if somebody balked at actually signing one, a recourse would be to withhold approval of the plat, or depending on where we're at in the process, the building permit, and then they could lobby the council to change the ordinance. But again, what we're requiring by the agreement is actually required by ordinance. It's just a formalization of those requirements and a document that'll run with the land.
All right, thank you. And I think that a variance, if we have that in Title 23, would be the process to get around the ordinance, right? If, not to change the ordinance, but if they thought they had a unique situation. I don't know if we have a variance procedure in Title 23, though. I guess we'd have to look. But, they could always appeal to the council. I see several hands up. Councilwoman Manti?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I guess you actually summarized what I was going to say, so I want to just put it out there as my opinion, is that I believe this is a good administrative item that can take place within the Public Works Department. But I would also like the idea of bringing something that's unusual or has any kind of unique situations about it, as you said, before the council. That just sort of gives it, I'm all for anything that can take place on an administrative level at any time. And so by us being able to see something that's unique or different, that I feel keeps the council in the loop for things that may come back and say, oh, whoa, what happened? So I think the combination of those two things, I'm really comfortable with that.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Albertson?
Thank you, Mayor. My opinion is administratively, it makes sense to do these things. It just takes about one or two steps out of all these busy work things that if they have to be and there's never a contention on it, why would we not? So I would say take care of it administratively.
Great, thank you. Councilman Lallam?
Thank you, Mayor. As none of us are engineers and none of us look at this on a regular basis, probably, just for light reading, I would say this is an easy one for the administration to be able to take care of. I don't know that there are any potential, unless there's something that comes across that we're not used to or you're not used to, but I would assume at that point they would come to the council and say this is a unique property and we'd be able to make changes based on that.
Right, thank you. Okay, well, let's move on to item F, which is council authorization for the mayor to sign the Stormwater Best Management Practice Maintenance Agreement for Lot 3 of Calvin Industrial Park, First Edition. Have a motion by Roby and a second by Holeen. And Heath, want to tell us about this one, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is the same similar action here, of course, also in the Calvin Industrial Park subdivision. This one is for Lot 3, which I believe is for East Side Implement, if I remember correctly off the top of my head here. But same thing, outlining the responsibilities of the landowner to keep their detention pond maintained.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please.
White,
Aye.
Billhauer,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rademski,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lallam,
Aye.
Pauline,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. And here's one more. Item G is council authorization for the mayor to sign the Stormwater Best Management Practice Maintenance Agreement for Pheasant Ridge 8th Edition.
So moved.
A motion by Y. And the second, which one was that? Rademski. And Heath, tell us about this one, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This, again, same thing, outlining responsibilities of the landowner to maintain their detention pond. This is in Pheasant Ridge, 8th edition. And I would have to defer to Brandy to let me know exactly what business this is. But similar situation, they recently constructed a private detention pond for their own ownership and maintenance.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions about this or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please.
Y,
Aye.
Billhauer,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rademski,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lalum,
Aye.
Pauline,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Item 7, old business is next, and we have a continued 10th Avenue North discussion on sanitary sewer, and I believe that the city engineer is looking for action on a motion on this item. So I'll, before we make the motion, I'll let Heath explain the whole situation. So go ahead, Heath.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I've got my screen shared here, and I'll walk through a few different pieces of information with the Public Works Committee. This is obviously in relation to 10th Avenue North, our reconstruction project up there. And as you recall, we've had some preliminary discussions on the need to make some sanitary sewer improvements. The 2 pointed questions I really would like input from the committee on are, A, does the Public Works Committee agree with the corrections that we're proposing as a staff? And then B, if so, how should those corrections be funded? So I'd like you to really focus on those two points. Should we be making these corrections while we have this road tore open and reconstructing the 10th Avenue street? And B, if so, where should we be funding these improvements from for the sanitary sewer? So with those 2 questions in mind, I'll walk through the details here, and I'll just go right to some drawings to give an explanation of the sanitary sewer improvements that we're proposing. I'll start on the east end. So on the right side of the screen is Highway 81, otherwise known as 4th Street Northeast. And running east and west or left to right across the screen here is 10th Avenue. You'll see these green arrows, green lines. These represent the current sewer lines that feed these 4 houses. Now, if you look at this, each 4 of these have their individual service that comes out to route their property line. But you'll also notice then they're all combined into one shared service that ties into the city main over here in 3rd Street. So this setup, this configuration is really in a nutshell what we're trying to correct. Anytime we have new development now today, it's required that each separate lot, each separate structure have its own individual sewer service connection. We wouldn't allow them to piggyback or daisy chain off one another like this situation exists today, according to our new design standards. Reason being is that helps protect the property owners. If this shared line ever becomes obstructed, it becomes oftentimes kind of a fight or turmoil amongst the property owners to figure out who's responsible to repair and replace the shared portion of the line. It causes issues with accessing that shared line on other people's private property. And it also causes, of course, the reality of sewer backup into neighboring properties' basements potentially because of a neighboring property's issue. So with that said, these are the situations we're trying to clean up on our 10th Avenue project and try to more appropriately connect these. Now in this location, what that would look like is you see these yellow lines are what we are proposing. We would extend the sewer main some distance here of maybe 100 feet, and then appropriately connect each one of these with these yellow service connections to the city's sewer main. And what that does, why that's a benefit to the city, we've talked a little bit about how that's a benefit to these homeowners, but why that's a benefit to the city is then once these individual homes are connected appropriately, that very much diminishes the risk of anybody having to tear up in our street, our brand new 10th Avenue, and perform main extensions or sewer service line work anytime in the future. I'm afraid if we leave these like this, what could happen is you will see 5 years from now, 10 years from now, something goes wrong with these shared lines, and these homeowners are then required to tear up the public infrastructure in order to get access and appropriate individual connection to the sewer mains. So that's what this yellow line work does. It helps clean that up. There are a few locations throughout 10th Avenue that we're proposing to do this. Here's a stretch of main that we would add for about the entirety of a full block here. And it helps correct, again, with these yellow lines, it gets these homes individually connected, and it removes these green shared service connections. Again, here, there's a shared one that comes all the way over to 3rd Street, and we would instead connect it to a new main individually. And in total, there are about 17 properties that this would help improve the current circumstances. And we believe set the city in a better position to help preserve the newly constructed roadway of 10th Avenue. So that's the logic behind what we're proposing as far as the main extensions and the new service connections. Now, the next part of that discussion is the cost. Roughly speaking, we put some engineering estimates together. You're looking at just over $125,000 for all this work. Now, staff has broken this out into a few different options here. The first one being as simple as the city incorporates that cost into our project and funds it completely with the 212 CIP money that we have. Another option entertained that I've seen communities perform this way as well. The city pays for the sewer main cost, and each individual homeowner pays for their service line costs. And the third option that we've laid out here is that we could assess that whole amount back to each property owner, all 17 property owners, which would include the sewer main and the services, all assessed back to the property owners. Now, if we just assess the service lines, that is approximately a little over $2,000 a piece. Now, that's going to vary on a per lot basis depending on the linear footage of service line, but just a real rough estimate, you're looking at a little over $2,000 per property owner. If we assess the entire sewer main and service lines, that cost to landowners ends up being, it ranges from about $5,200 up to 11 grand, averaging a little over about $7,500. And that's if we assess the full sewer main and the service lines. I could pause there for discussion and questions, Mayor, if you feel that's appropriate, and we'd be glad to help provide any more feedback here. But again, the 2 points at hand is, is the council in agreement with these corrections that the staff are proposing as far as getting these homes individually connected to for sewer service, and how should we fund, what's an appropriate way to fund those improvements?
All right, thank you. Councilman Y?
Heath, Josh here. With option 2 and option 3, have the landowners been presented with what kind of costs they could possibly be looking at? And then how are those repayments? How would they repay that? Is it spread out? Could it be spread out? Is there interest? Things like that.
Yes, great questions. As far as the extent that the property owners have been contacted on these costs, I'll let Marcy expand on that. But first, I'll address your second part of your question. This amount, if we were to assess, let's say we took option 2 and we assessed the service line work to each property owner, we would do that through the formal assessment process and follow state statutes regarding the assessments for public improvements. And that could then be spread out over a 10-year time frame. And I believe our interest is a little high. It's like, I believe 10%. Kristen could correct me if I'm wrong there. But this would essentially then be spread out over a 10-year time frame, which becomes all the more palatable for any given homeowner to be able to afford in that respect. Marcy, if you could touch on the amount of exposure the residents have had to these numbers.
So during the landowner meetings, we talked more about option 2, only because it's an established neighborhood, and it's not a new development where we would typically do option 3. And that would be with the developer at that time, and then we would assess it back to whoever bought the lots. So during the meetings, we kind of talked about the city has a main line, we would extend it, and then rough estimates were given in around that $2,000 range.
Other questions, Councilman Rademski?
Heath, have we ever run into this into the past, and are there other areas of town that have this same type of sanitary sewer situation?
Yes, Councilman Rademski, it's another good question. We absolutely have a lot of areas in town that are set up and structured the same way. And I'll use Marcy's point she just made as a differential in my mind on how we could handle this one by assessing only the service lines and not the mains. On new development, yes, the main construction and the service line work is completely the developer's responsibility or the landowner's responsibilities. And that's the conventional way that we would build something out. And of course, to our standards today, they would be required to give each individual building their own private service line. Now, as far as correcting existing conditions like we're trying to do here, I haven't been able to find a lot of good examples where we've done this in the recent past. And I think that the differential in my mind is because the city has this road tore up and we do want to preserve this new roadway. And because we've accepted these connections some years back, decades ago, the way they are, that there be a little bit of a negotiation or a give and take or a compromise or whatever we want to call it that would say, okay, the city agrees we would extend our public main to this extent, but then each homeowner would still be required to cover the cost for their service line work. And that's where, because it's a project like this, of this nature, where we're building a brand new road for blocks and blocks over on a collector street, I think that's one determining factor in my mind. If we ran into an issue down the road, just hypothetically, where two homeowners had a shared service line and they needed to make some corrections, but it was on a street anywhere in town that we're not doing a full-blown collector reconstruction project like this, I would say yes, that cost would be the homeowners alone to bear for them to correct their situation. But because of the nature of this one, that's why we've laid out these options that we have for consideration.
Councilman Bueller? Councilman Bueller, did you have a question or a comment?
I'm sorry, Mayor. I thought I was off mute. I know in these manifolded systems, most likely a lot of these are pretty old. And I know that from experience, with some of these folks, they've had issues with roots and other obstructions that have damaged some of these sewer systems. I think the idea that they're going to get a new sewer system to the main would have to give that landowner some assurance down the road that they're not going to have people come in and repair those situations on their own property. I guess I agree, Heath, with the idea that we want to design away from these manifold systems. I agree with that, and for one, I guess I would agree with option 2, and I would hope that we could give them some time to pay for this, and if there's a way we could get around that 10% interest on those, I think that would be nice too. If we could lower that interest rate somehow. I don't know if we can, but I think that would give some relief to those landowners.
Thank you. Councilman Villar?
Couple, few questions. Marcy, what did you say, what kind of response did you get from the homeowners when you did broach the subject with them, or didn't you get a chance to talk to the dollar amounts involved?
Sorry, I apologize. My computer froze, so I'm speaking off of Justin.
What I asked was, when you discussed this with the homeowners, did you talk dollar amounts, and if so, what kind of response did you get from the homeowners?
So we didn't know the extent at the time of the landowner meetings, and that's why I talked more to option 2, because I knew there was some existing. The thing that they mostly responded to were the people that do have problems were actually very much in favor of this. There are some that already have to remove their service. They would have liked to have done it years ago, but knew this project was coming. The owners that don't have problems with trying to question
Okay, I think I got the gist of your answer there, Mark.
Right.
Just a bit for you. So when these were in, I agree too, we got to get the situation cleaned up when we get the opportunity now. But when these were put in, they were it was allowable and okay to do it the way it was done. I mean, it wouldn't be allowed now, as I understand it, under our design standards, but it was allowable when it was done. Is that a fair statement, Heath?
To my knowledge, it was allowable, at least to the extent by the action that it occurred, it was allowable. Now, I can't speak to exactly how the regulations read, but I assume the regulations allowed for some connectivity like this.
We have a lot of these all over town, so you know, it's probably safe to assume that it was acceptable practice.
Yeah.
To unrelated but yet part of the same project, I'm assuming some of these same homeowners are also going to be those that are assessed the sidewalks on that side of the street. Is that correct?
This is Marcy. Yes, there are a number of residents that will get assessed both for sidewalk and then sanitary sewer.
And Marcy, could you, we've looked at those sidewalk numbers recently too, just for perspective and context here. Do you know off the top of your head, Marcy, to the extent some of those assessments were coming in at? I believe with our $4 per square foot credit, that blow has been lessened quite a bit, is what I'm getting at.
Okay. I guess I feel because, I mean, the homeowners have done nothing wrong here. I think it's to their benefit to get things cleaned up. It's to our benefit. I guess I would be in favor of option 2 in this project or in this discussion.
Councilman Y?
I know the engineer department is looking for direction from the council, so do we need, is that
You can make a motion.
a motion, Glenn? I would second that if it is.
I would make that as a motion to facilitate conversation.
I
Okay.
will second that.
So we have a motion from Councilman Vilhauer to pursue option 2, and a second by Councilman Y. And do we have some more discussion? Councilman Bueller, your hand's up? Councilman Bueller? Maybe not.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I'm having some difficulties here. I just, I think that we need to consider the fact that some of these sewer systems are very old. And at some point here, perhaps in the near future, they would have to be replaced. And I think once they're in there and they're digging and there's multiples of these people having this done, that's certainly, I would think, going to reduce the cost of each individual having to do that at some point down the road. And of course, preserving the street at the same time is I think, important. So maybe that might make a difference in how we decide we want to move forward with this. But I think my opinion, I was clear.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to add in here, the roads torn up, this is the time to do it. They're saving, if they wait and have to dig up the curb and gutter and the asphalt, they're adding 10, sometimes even more, $1,000 just to repair the road. Councilman Y?
If, the way this sets right now, if they have a failure, can they just fix the line, or does the city require them to make direct access to the main?
It depends on how, we wouldn't necessarily make them clean it up, if there's multiple people using that. But I mean, if they're in a dispute of who owns it and, then that could get sticky. We have had a situation where a shared sewer was discovered and the private main went under a garage, and the city wanted to move it out into the alley while we were nearby on another project, and the people didn't want to pay for it. And so it's still under someone's garage. But I'm not aware of any time where we made somebody do that. I think if you read our ordinance, it says if you're within 200 feet and you're not connected to the sewer, you have to do that.
Madam Mayor, if I could.
Go ahead.
I actually have been talking with Mike Berger, wastewater superintendent, along those same lines in regards to Councilman Y's question. And they are circumstantial, Mayor. You're absolutely correct. But I do believe that Mike has sent notices to known shared connections that are manifolded together like this to let them know that to follow city ordinance, they would be required to make a single connection if their system were to go down. So that point being all the more reason, if some of these manifold systems go down later and we do require them to correct them, again, staff's trying to prevent having to correct them in our brand new street the best that we can and avoid that from happening. Mike's online with us too. I don't know if he wants to chime in at all on that.
Yeah, just to elaborate on that, Heath, over the last, 22 to 24 years, we have sent out, we've identified another 42 homes on similar type connections as these, where it's a private sewer running in the boulevard, and there would be anywhere from maybe 2 or 3 homes on that private line in the boulevard, like you saw on the first 4 homes that he showed you. And we found those homes, and again, there are 42 of them that have been identified that have received a certified letter from the city telling them that if they're required to make a repair to that line, then they are required at that point, when they pull out the excavation permit, that's the point at which they would have to hook to the city main at their own expense.
Okay. Councilman Y?
With our motion, will we have an opportunity for the public to speak on this, on their thoughts and feelings?
If anyone is online that wants to, they certainly could. It's not a public hearing or anything like that, but Councilman Bueller, did you have a question?
I'm good, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on that motion? Okay, I'll look for, Justin wants to say something. Justin Peterson?
This is Marcy.
Okay, Marcy.
So there will be a public hearing depending on which of the options are agreed upon. And that at that time, the public can come in and comment on it.
Yes, not today, but when we do the resolution of necessity for an assessment project, yes, there will be a public hearing. Is that what you meant?
That's what I meant.
Sorry.
So, I didn't want the public to feel like.
Marcy knew what you meant.
I didn't want them to feel like that we voted on this without having their input. So there will be an opportunity
Absolutely.
if it passes this motion.
Yes, there's a standard process to follow for actual assessments. We don't just wing it. Councilman Roby?
Just please clarify the motion, if you would.
The motion is to follow through with option number 2, which is the city pays for the main line sanitary sewer improvement, and the landowner pays for the private sanitary sewer work from the main line to their home. But we would do it in conjunction with our project, and then the assessment would be split out in accordance with that, and we just got estimates now. Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll look for,
Just procedural, if we approve this, does this, will we act on this at our regular council meeting coming up now in a few minutes?
no,
Okay.
No.
There'll be no action taken at that
not
meeting?
tonight, but
Okay.
there will be a resolution of necessity
Okay, gotcha.
prepared,
Okay, thank you.
and yes. Anything else? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please, Kristen?
Y,
Aye.
Billhauer,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rademski,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lalum,
Aye.
Pauline,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson,
Aye.
motion carries.
All right, thank you. Is there any other old business? See none, is there any new business? Okay, the next item is executive session pursuant to Sdcl 1-25-2, and we do have a number of items to discuss and consult with legal counsel having to do with personnel and contractual matters. And so we'll just briefly go in and try to come out like with at least 5 minutes to spare. So if I could get a motion to go into executive session. Motion by Holeen and a second by Rademski. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay.
Y,
Aye.
Billhauer,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rademski,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lalum,
Aye.
Pauline,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson,
Aye.
motion carries.
All right, thank you. We're in executive session, so you need to